Yeah. So, okay. So the reality that we are living in today is something that we didn't even think about maybe 2 months back or 2.5 months back. So things have changed quite drastically, and it has not taken years to do so. So all the summer holiday plans that we would have made, all the bookings that we would have made, all the thoughts, plans that we had, that has suddenly changed. And it's created a great uncertainty. So the way I'm going to present, and I don't have too much to talk about because it's a area where everybody has a view and there are so much is being written and spoken about. I've just put down from my point of view and somewhat biased towards FMCG products and that kind of CPG area. What do I see happening? And maybe there are some general knowledge or general understanding that can apply to others, but please feel free. But I heard the rule here that it's questions only in the end, but I would have liked it to be interactive as it goes along, but probably this is because of the interface that we have that may not be very easy to do. So I will, so the format is as follows. I have 10 charts where I have put down 10 different points of view as to how I see things impacting and going forward. So I'll jump in. Okay. Is the chart visible now?
Yes, sir, very much.
Okay, good. So continuing with this thought, it's a place where suddenly we have become very cautious about the future. We are cautious about others, people, strangers, and safety is something that is slowly getting hardwired into our thinking. And we will probably see it play out as public transport opens up, which has started happening. And everybody will be very, very wary and cautious about others.
Now, Mr. Datta, just a minute. Could you please adjust your camera? We cannot, people cannot have a proper view of you.
Okay. What I'm seeing is my full view. So I don't know whether. Okay. Okay.
Thank you.
Right. Now, what this means is that the risk appetite that people would have had, whatever it was, that will go down. Now, which means that anything that products or services that people buy and whatever little risk that people would have taken earlier as okay, doesn't matter, now will probably favor brands and services which will reduce risk, which will probably take products back, replace products or services, those kind of. So because people don't want to get into a jam at this stage because things are very, very uncertain for everybody. And certainly people are going to be very, very risk averse and in everything. Now, it's a fact saying that there is nobody whose income or the savings hasn't been impacted during this period. Now, things may come back, things may get better, but we don't know how long it will take. Now, what I see, therefore, this impacting in terms of how people will respond is in terms of essentials. Now, essentials is something that we wouldn't have thought about in the way that we are thinking now, but essentials are going to drive a lot of our consumption. And what I also see is going for businesses is that to figure out that where are they playing, what zone of product and services they are playing. Is it in the essential zone or is it not? Now, the thing is that everybody does not have the same definition of essential. So different consumers will have different band of essentials which they consider they must have. And therefore, it's for the businesses to discover what are these different bands. Maybe the richer people have a different set of essentials and mass market and lower middle have different set of bands of essential, what they consider essentials. So it is for the companies to discover what those bands are and have products and services in each one of them. Because times are bad and people are going to really focus on what they really need. There was this concept called a go bag. It's there, particularly in places which are somewhat volatile environmentally, which are like a bag which contains all the the valuables, the most important papers, passport, documents, etc., and which people can just pick up and go. In the form of the way things we have gotten used to over the last few weeks, is that essentially is something that we would want to keep no matter what, and that's something that I think is going to impact us. Now, this will mean that there will be some kind of a hoarding that people might want to do, something like a second cylinder concept, I think. So there will be a set of products and a quantity that will always be kept as a backup savings level, storage level, and people will keep that at all times. So like a second cylinder, once one is getting got exhausted, the second cylinder is put on and the order for the next one is put. Likewise, people will always keep something in the backup at home. And over a period of time, hopefully this list of essentials will expand, and it will begin to include recreational and so-called non-essential items also. Because it's being said that, the large part of industrial activity and business activity are for products which are strictly speaking non-essential. But then that's how the business and the world has been built, where people have gone beyond essentials, and that's how the business cycle of business has been running. So so-called non-essentials will come in, but they will come in slowly. Now, when this kind of an environment starts to play, people would probably ask questions, and these are people like us, people we know, would say that, okay, so what am I getting for the price I'm paying? What am I getting? So products which talk about value, the reason people buy a particular product or a service for, and the frills and so-called non-functional or so-called emotive benefits may take a kind of backseat for the time being. That's not good, like again, for business point of view, but because those are the values that give you the premium, that gives us the kind of ability to charge a higher price. But those are the precise areas where people may ask those questions that, why am I buying these fancy things for? I can buy something cheaper and it can work just as fine. And there are indications I've been reading about that, the shop brands, which are the own labels and retail outlets with their own packaged products, which are a lot cheaper than the national branded items, are kind of selling much more. And that's the logic, that it works just as well and costs me less. So these benefit blocks need to be determined, because people will have different requirements and basics, and we need to do that. Now come to packaging. Now these are huge areas of innovation, value differentiation, and something that in packaged goods and indeed any branded products, packaging is very important. But there could be a kind of a trend, and it can't be said, and which is why I said it's an opinion, and please feel free to differ, is people may just say that, okay, packaging is just a carrier because I don't consume the packaging. I consume the product that is contained within. And it should provide the basic protection. That's the purpose of, functional purpose of packaging. And therefore, give me cheaper, the packaging wise, something cheaper. The product you shouldn't touch, but give me a cheaper packaging and at a lower price, because that is an idea which I'll be happy with. So it's somewhat like the concept of bottles and jars, and then you have the refill packs, which are cheaper, contain the same product, and people are happy to buy it. Now, these sort of ideas can expand to other areas, and also not just the price of a larger pack. Even people may not wish to invest on a large pack at these times. So smaller unit packs can expand their presence in categories where they have not been. Like ETC, we have launched a small, small sachet sanitizer, hand sanitizer sachet at 50 paisa. Now, those are the kind of things which goes everywhere, can be carried with everybody, and doesn't pinch the pocket. I mean, these are the kind of ideas, products that people are going to look for. When it comes to advertising, now here it's a bit of a kind of a mix over here. There are different points of view coming in. One group says that advertising should not stop. It should maybe even increase, or at least stay at the same level as before. And there is another view that, you know, we should conserve money on advertising and try to reduce the price if possible. And we have heard this refrain from consumers for long, saying that, you know, don't spend money on advertising, give it to me at a lower price. And particularly for products where advertising forms a large part of the brand spend, these could actually be an idea one has to look at. And again, we are not talking about advertising just in terms of television advertising or point of sale or billboard. There are lots of cheaper mechanisms, digital advertising, where the costs are somewhat more variable rather than a fixed nature of cost that is advertising traditionally has been. So some of these models could come in, but generally people may say that, and certainly, and by the way, I must, like it's put down here, that it's more for the existing products. I mean, new brands cannot be launched without advertising. So that is separate. But for existing brands, it would make sense for one to find a more, a zone where one spends less on advertising and maybe pass on some of that value to the consumer, either at a lower price or don't change the price for a long time, because that's something people will value. People in these times where lots of things seem out of control, because we don't know what tomorrow will be, what laws will be, what rules and what we can do, cannot do. And like I was saying, that incomes have kind of been under stress, savings have come down. So in these kind of situations, saving money will be important. And along with the fact that something of a mechanism where people can actually control their consumption level would be, the consumer themselves can control their consumption level, will be useful and valuable. So ideas like these concentrates, which people can dilute as much as they want. So not only they will buy something at a smaller quantity, but they will be able to use it over an extended period. She controls the dilution level. Now these will also be something that people would value, getting the control into their hands. This is an area which work has been going on for last several years of going direct to consumers, even for mass market products, not in the way that banks or insurance or mobile companies can do, which is one-to-one marketing. But with this digital payment, home delivery, lots of FMCG company, including ITC and many other FMCG companies, we are beginning to deliver products direct to consumer homes. And this creates an opportunity to create personalized offers, run loyalty programs, and deliver more value for being a customer of a brand, of our brands, than what we could do when we were disintermediated through the wholesalers and retailers, etc. Now, these are, if you like, opportunity areas where people will actually prefer direct company services. And these are opportunity to create a more one-to-one relationship with the customers. Because one thing, if you think about the change from the previous, say the industrial era of brands and marketing to digital era, is that we are able to reach out to consumers on a one-to-one basis. And something that the industrial products or relationship manager, relationship marketing kind of organizations used to do for a long time, to know the person one-to-one and do business with them. In FMCG now, these kind of, or consumer goods or consumer services, these kind of opportunities are coming in. Obviously, it can't be done with people, because the number of customers are in millions, but they can be done through programs and softwares which can create these customized offers and loyalty programs. And in a way, the brand managers or the marketing guys will have to become like a relationship manager, just like the banks and the telephone companies have. And this is going to change the way we deal with customers from a consumer product window. Now, this is my last slide, where I'm just kind of trying to see what else has been happening. So when we say that, I started by saying that people have changed, because these are things that changes people, not just consumers or buyers or sellers, but people at a core fundamental level. And I'm ending by saying that, you look at the kind of programs that are running. Yeah, one reason is that, of course, the new episodes can't be shot because things are shut. But the ones which are really, and so everybody's running their older reruns, older episodes. But the ones which are really breaking the charts are the ones like Mahabharata and Ramayana and things like that, and Dekh Bhai Dekh and all those older serials. Now, somewhere, I guess it probably, and maybe I'm overreaching myself, I'm not a psychology person, but something to the effect that people need some grounding, some comfort, some anchoring. Somewhere people want to feel connected, because things look very, very uncertain. Okay, but these are something which gives a sense of anchor, gives a sense of grounding, and which is missing in these turbulent times. Probably that's the reason why they do well, but there will be so many other reasons. So just as I said, disclaimer at the beginning that it's a personal opinion. So that's all I had to say.
Thank you very much, sir, for your candid views on this. So I open the session for question answers, and I could see that in the chat box there are already some questions. So as Lakshmi Madam asks that, will there be a trend of buying non-branded products? That's the first question that we have.
Yeah, I mean, see, everything is branded somewhere. I mean, it is, if it does not have a brand name, it comes from a retailer, from some shop. So even if you buy rice from some guy, it is unbranded, but you buy from somebody. And so everything is branded at the end, but people would want to kind of get the best value, to say that I need to get the value I need, but I don't want to pay more for it. People will be very, very value conscious, and it's easy to see why.
So very rightly said. So you can go ahead and disable the share screen, so that all of us can see you in a bigger screen. So you can switch off the share screen. Yeah, thank you very much. All right, so I'm going to the second question, sir. Second question is asked by Professor Datta, and he is asking, when we talk about the customer touch points, the customer lifetime value and customer delight, which of the three, according to you, will be the lookout for most FMCG companies post the current times?
See, FMCG, that's what I was trying to say, that we have not been able to have a lifetime value, so to speak, because we cannot track a same customer. People have been going to their shops and making a purchase, and our touch point is to our distributor and to the wholesalers and that sort of people. So what this kind of an event seems to have accelerated is the customer need to buy directly from retailers, from the e-commerce and those sort of home delivery services, where a company like us and many others have also joined in with a large basket of products to sell direct. So we can now have a database of consumers who we can deal with directly. We have more touch points to interact with them. And yes, we can, on that basis, create value and even compute lifetime value, so to speak. But it has not been the case. As we do more and more one-to-one business, yes, this is, I believe, is going to be the direction.
Right, sir. So the next question is from Anki Chatterjee. Are the FMCG companies moving towards direct marketing model?
See, we cannot go direct marketing for the simple reasons that numbers are huge. We are talking about consumer base in the order of millions. Every second household, I mean, I'm giving ITC example again, every second household buys ITC product. Now, that kind of number, we are not going to be able to reach one-to-one. At least so far, we couldn't think of. But who knows? I mean, the retail reach, direct to home retail reach has gone up with this. And I'm told Alibaba and their e-commerce grew hugely post the SARS, which is the 2003, I think, 2002-03. That's when e-commerce grew in China and Alibaba became big. Now, this could be the one for us where we know how all the e-commerce players have grown. So yes, I mean, certainly the one-to-one interaction will be high. And obviously, it's a part of their revenue model to allow access to customers for direct, certainly for promotions and those sort of values. Because it's the database of customers who buy from them is the value of the retailers. Now, we will not have a direct access to them. Nobody would give that. But we have also started selling our products to the consumers, but this is because it's a kind of unstable times. Because we also have lakhs of retailers who we service and they sell our products. We don't want to create a channel conflict there. But you know, this is a very, very dynamic time. Things are changing very, very rapidly. So we'll have to see where things settle down. Ultimately, yes, it is the consumer value and customer need that will determine how the channel members have to align.
Thank you, sir. So I see a lot of questions coming in, and I would appreciate so much of participations coming in, and at one given point of time I could see there are 88 odd participants who had logged in, and I can still see people coming in, so I'm still giving access to people who are still joining in. So what a lovely audience today, and what participations.
Thank you very much. Yeah.
So,
thank you.
Sir, the next question is from Debarshri Bhattacharya. Will brand patronage and loyalty patterns change?
Well, I mean, it's loyalty is not for any brand. People are loyal to certain brands. People are not so loyal to certain other brands, and it's there in every category. And if you see the winner brands in any category, they have higher loyalty than the brands which are not, that don't do well. Now, yes, there are certain categories which have more loyalty than the others, generally more loyalty than the others. But that having been said, I think everybody has to earn their money. Now, more than before, even the brand that I have been buying for years, I would want to question, because I'm pushed. Things are not very, very good. So every brand has to earn its living and provide the value, which, like I said, need of the hour is good functional value. And yes, they would want to save every bit of money that they can get. So loyalty will come at a cost. Yes. You're not audible to me. I can't hear anybody.
Okay, sir. Yeah. I'm sorry, I was on mute. So I could see, a lot of people still putting on their messages here. So I'll go to the next one. Noyandeep Datta, he's asking that GT is doing personalized marketing. Will it expand further, or MT will take inroad with touch and feel effects?
See, GT is now a so-called the neighborhood kirana is a revelation. I mean, they are the guys who have actually managed to keep the supplies going when Amazons and Flipkarts and Big Basket, haath utha diya tha. So I think this is a good sign that neighborhood kirana, the so-called GT, they are back in favor. They need technological enablement. They need apps. They need service levels and things like. But to me, they are also back in business. Now the MT, GT, e-commerce, now ultimately people are going to get their products, if people have to get their products delivered home, and we are talking about branded packaged products, it does not matter whether Nescafe came from the GT, MT or e-commerce, it will be the same, or any branded product for that matter, in which case whoever delivers the thing in time, and maybe some little value discount, whoever can provide, people will go for it.
I think the next question is a little bit similar, but I'll still ask. This has come from Shakti. Will customer move towards low cost sometimes?
I think so. I mean, it's almost logical that, if the incomes are stable or salaries are being cut, the savings have come down 15, 20, 25%, worst case. What would be the tendency for people to do? I mean, yeah, but there would be exceptions and differences, but I guess that's a natural tendency.
Right, sir. Shubhabruto is asking, do you feel that physical retail will die?
Well, see, going to the shop to buy, and if you are talking about grocery kind of product, there is no fun. But coming to electronics, coming to clothes, coming to garments, fashion, those kind of products, yeah, I mean, the shops would play a role, but then these sectors have also been impacted even without COVID-19, where people started buying things online, see it at the store, compare prices, and then get it from the online. So yeah, I mean, as far as the grocery and those kind of products are concerned, many people have now found ways to get it home delivered, pay for it, and perfectly comfortable. But for other products, electronics, where you would want to try out different things, experience the product, hear it, see it, television, music system, clothes, the role of retail would be there. But yes, it will be a lot more subdued. And obviously, we are extrapolating from where we are today, which is extremely restricted. But it will get opened out, and then we'll operate in a different behavior set, new normal situation where we will do everything, but in a slightly different way. Retail for these sectors, I see not going away easily.
Right, sir. Joydeep Banerjee is asking, what is the scope for Indian startup companies over multinationals post-lockdown period?
Sorry, can you repeat the question? I was reading the comment here. Sorry.
Yeah. What is the scope for Indian startup companies over multinational post-lockdown period?
I'm not an expert or competent to answer this. Plus, I don't know. Indian startup versus multinational startups, I have no experience in this area. Sorry.
All right, so we'll move ahead. Nayandeep, I'll come back to you because I've already taken one of your questions earlier. So let me go to some other question. Sampath says, will the Kirana shops continue to hold sway like now?
See, Kirana shops have always been there. I guess what they have now begun to find, and I have seen there is this company, Canadian company called Shopify, whose job is to create apps for individual stores, and it's like a shopping mall kind of a concept where each shop can set up their own shop, Kirana, grocery, that kind of shops, and they will have all the benefits of the infrastructure that Shopify provides. So in a sense, it's a counter to Amazon's and Flipkart's and Big Basket's kind of body, which are large e-commerce bodies. So yes, I see the Kirana shops are not dying, are not going to be dead very soon. And if JioMart, as you all would have read about, the plan there is to actually build on the neighborhood Kiranas. So using the reach, decentralized, distributed reach of these shops to reach out and to deliver at a lot more attractive delivery cost than the large e-commerce or the modern format retailers. So that's a model which is going to be very interesting to look at. And I'm very hopeful that JioMart will do well.
Thank you very much. I would request participants not to ask questions which is not relevant to the expertise of our speaker, because I am skipping few questions here because I see it's not related to the discussion or not related to the expertise of our speaker. So I am not going through all those questions which are not related. So I'm just skipping one or two from here and I'm moving ahead. Shubhabrato, I have asked one questions of yours. I'll come back to you later. Let me ask questions which people have not asked earlier. So this is one from Sambrita Mishra. Will the market getting filled up with similar hygiene and disinfect products? Do you think the big brands will somehow lose customers, or will that be vice versa? Given the fact we get to see so many new companies changing their line of business what would be their fate?
Okay, is it the question related to the hygiene products? I think that was the...
Yeah, so it's saying that the market is getting filled up with similar hygiene and disinfectant products. And there are many brands who are now, changing their product line and line of business. So given this fact, what would be their fate?
See, right now, all of these are production lines are being reconfigured to create and sell disinfectants and the sanitizers, etc., because there's a supply-demand gap. And there are still product ideas which can still come up. And they are, strictly speaking, not the same product. Yes, it's a disinfectant, so delivered as a different packaging solutions will come in, like I said, about 50 paisa sachets and small packs, something that goes into the pocket, in the bag, because these are products which everybody will need to carry. Okay, so it's like the tissues are being also spoken about, that you must use tissues after you touch the lift buttons or anything that you touch, touch using a tissue box, tissue paper, and throw off the tissue paper and avoid the skin contact. So there are various such product ideas which are coming in because of this pandemic, and some of them will stay. Now, see, right now it's a sanitizer. Now, whether it comes from ITC or Dabur or Marico or anybody, people kind of take it that these are reputed company and they say it's a sanitizer, Dettol, it's a sanitizer, and I'm going to use it. But yes, I think once the thing gets saturated, the next level of values will come in. So the brands which have some standing, who will do something innovative. So then the rules of marketing, the old rules of marketing will kick in. So the innovations and all those things will come into play. But right now there's a huge supply demand gap. So anybody producing it is going to sell.
Right, sir. So next question is from Sharmi. How long will it take to pick up sales? Cutback of income has affected who all in FMCG?
Sorry, can you repeat the question again?
Yeah, so how long will it take to pick up sales? So I think you're wanting to say that the incomes are affected. So, how it is going to affect FMCG market?
See, obviously the products, and this is, I'm not professing to be again any expert on this, but the products which are considered essential are going through the roof. I mean, we can't produce enough, but there are other product categories which are something that is not used often, something which is considered luxury or fancy or once in a while. Those kind of products will have tough time to get back. Be it foods, be it personal care, be it household care. I mean, people are going to focus in on what they really need to get by until the business cycle moves to a level where incomes get better, the money's, the savings look better, all of that.
Thank
Right,
you.
sir. So this is a question from Prafulla Kumar Mohanty. She says that as government is promoting local Indian products, do you think MNC giant company is going to lose market share?
See, people have certain relationship with their brands, and I'm talking about the brands which have been in the market, and many of them you may or may not know whether they're Indian or foreign. I mean, we could be in the business or in the sector, so we know that that's an MNC and that's not an MNC. Now, to many people may not even know whether it's an MNC or not, because they interact with the brand, and the brand, if it has been with them for a long time, then it's become an Indian brand. So people will not, I would not believe people will choose brands based on their country of origin. That way, all the MNCs are made in India and have the totally local supply chain. So people will make, people who sell, people who transport are Indians. So the value is captured in India. So uh, it a priori does not seem like a bad thing for the MNC brands.
Right, sir. I am seeing, many people are asking questions. I'm trying to give chance to people who have not asked questions as of now, because I see same names coming in. So I'm just trying to see if I could get someone who's not asked a question. Okay, so this is from Shayan Mukherjee. He says, being head of research, please guide us. How should a small and medium-sized FMCG company or a startup ensure that they get access to market research information that help build an effective marketing strategy, given they do not have budgets to invest in market research like the big companies?
Good. See, when you are a startup, then I presume you have a product or a service which people want to buy, because that's the first thing that would have got you into the business or the idea in the first place. So your customers, whoever your customer is, your first customer, your first 10 customers, they are the people who would have given you the inspiration, would have given you ideas to kind of create, refine, and fine-tune your offer. To me, that's market research. I mean, that's a way to find out what your customers need. You have created an offer, and you must get that positive feedback from people who have those needs to say that, yes, it's a great product for me to buy or great service for me to buy. Market research is a more, shall we say, organized effort to do on a very large scale. That's the typical template. But as a startup, I would imagine that you already have that. You already have those kind of initial feedback, initial inspiration, initial brainwave to say that, yes, this is something that has a market. Build as you go. I mean, you don't have to get it right. And what am I saying? I have not been involved with a startup, but that must be your way forward, that you have to build as you go and carry your customers along.
Right, sir. Satyanarayan says, in marketing sector, people are now changing their role into relationship managers, but the company expected more from marketing people. Is this another role to do business by expanding this market share in some critical markets?
I am not clear about the last part. See, the relationship marketing becoming relationship management, I also see in some form, and I spoke about it in my presentation. Because as soon as we deal with customers as a one-to-one entity, all industrial product companies, machines sellers, and large software sellers, and one-to-one marketers, they have known that that is how business is done. Their marketing is knowing the customer needs and making them successful, and what are the things they need to do to serve them. FMCG or the consumer products, large consumer products, one couldn't do because of the numbers, but with one-to-one being feasible with digital marketing and so on, relationship marketing is the corollary of that. If you know a person well enough, what they buy, who they are, what they do, because over a period of time, one gathers this kind of information, is a great place to say that, okay, so if you want this, if you have bought this, what else can you buy? And that's the model to go forward. And the relationship is based on, what you like and what you need and what I can sell you. So it's a very likely scenario. So a brand manager or a marketing head becoming a customer relationship manager, customer relationship owner, and in a way being responsible for customer profit and loss. I mean, going forward, that's the way I think when you come to customer lifetime value, that is what it will lead to, that each customer, how much you spend on them, on him or her, and what is the kind of sales revenue and the contribution margin that you can generate from them is your P&L. And it is possible once you have a lot of interactions to have that and make sure those are profitable customers. Exactly the same way banks look at customers and everybody else does. Yeah, sorry. That's it.
Manoranjan says, is it possible to adopting network marketing models like Amway model to branding FMCG companies, creating of a loyal customer community to sell the product and pass on the S&D expenditures benefits to customers?
See, it's been tried with some categories, but not many other than Amway and companies like these have been successful. So I don't know much about it. I mean, see, the other thing also to think about is that companies which are kind of in the legacy kind of a setup where there is a existing trade channels which are operating. There's a distributor, there are wholesalers, there are retailers who have been doing business with us for a very long time. These kind of disruptions, one has to kind of see the benefits and this thing. But for a new player, yes, I mean, those are things to look at. They can potentially disrupt and create value opportunity both for the customer as a consumer as well as a channel partner. It's a win-win, potential win-win, but not many people have been able to do it.
Right, sir. There's another question, Purna Rao, who has mentioned that with technology-driven market, do you think there will be no urban-rural gap? I mean, whatever we get at urban, we can get at our rural location.
See, the problem of selling products which customers may want in a rural market is not that they don't want and we don't know they want. It's just that the scale and the concentration of that demand is not there for one to effectively service it. So if some premium brand has a 10% share in a Mumbai, in a small village, it could be 0.2% or 0.3%, but then that could mean one packet a month kind of a thing, which are not easy to service. But yes, with the e-commerce and home delivery getting expanded, I won't say rural just as yet, but it has certainly gone to smaller markets, smaller towns. And so the access to brands has grown hugely. And one can also see that from the data that the e-commerce guys talk about, that people are able to see, access and order and get products which their local shops don't sell, or even their nearest town don't sell. So these are great things. Extending that argument can go to rural also, but I don't think the home delivery reach is there much in the rural as yet. But potentially, yes, they can get it, provided they pay the delivery charge.
Right, sir. There's another gentleman, I cannot understand his name because there are a few numbers here. It says, should a businessman or shopkeeper of non-essential items shift his focus towards essential items for next few months at least? I think you already answered this a little while ago, about the shift and how things are. So we might go ahead to some other question. Okay. Supriya Sengupta says, do you think the companies will have to review the pricing policy?
In terms of, and for what? I mean,
maybe she's trying to understand about this new current situation where things are a little difficult for consumers in terms of their pocket and everything. So maybe she's trying to hint that. Do you think that the companies will have to review the pricing policy?
See, the value is something that people would certainly want, and price is one part of the value. So, there are these things about larger packs, and larger packs often come at a lower unit price per ml or per unit or per gram level. They work out cheaper. So that could be one way to deliver value. So if there is no large package, so large packs can get created. If a refill pack kind of a option can be created, which saves on packaging cost, because the cost is going to be a key focus on everybody. I mean, everybody is going to look at every line item of cost very, very critically. And the values will get passed on to the consumers because, it's in a competitive market. So if you don't do it, somebody else will, and they will have our customers. So we can't let that happen. So every bit of value is going to have to be extracted.
Right, sir. Rajashri Mukhopadhyay says, would the same data and analytics be applicable post COVID-19 for predicting consumer behavior? What should be the difference in approach?
Very hard question, because no model data has seen COVID-19 and that kind of a shock event. So it's very hard. So I think we'll have to really see how things how quickly it comes back to earlier levels or earlier behaviors. But it's a very, very drastic change that has happened. So past data may not reflect how things will go.
Right, sir. I see there are a lot of participants who are mentioning, they are requesting me to ask their second question. But I was actually trying to see if I can take, accommodate more participants, asking questions rather than, focusing on people who are asking repeat questions. So I don't know how much time we have. Madhusudan Da, how much time do we have? Can I go back to people who have been asking second questions?
Yeah, if Mr. Sanjay Datta is agreeable, we can continue with the questions.
Another 5 minutes.
Okay, all right. So in that case, let me see in case, I can accommodate some 3-4 more questions. So I see there's one question. Okay, everyone is saying, can you ask my question first? But I'm thoroughly enjoying the participation, the way that people are
amazing.
People are,
but it's something where everybody has a view and has a perspective, and I think that's nice.
Right. So I'll quickly take 3 or 4 questions. Deepa is saying, during this time, though every price is on the hike, including transportation. So what is the criteria to follow in case of revision of price?
Revision of price for?
She's mentioned this much only, so not very sure what she actually trying to understand. During this time,
you can call her on the line and let her ask.
Yeah, Deepa, are you there? Can you just switch on your microphone and ask the question, because your question is not very clear?
Good evening, sir.
Good evening.
Sir, my question is that actually during this lockdown time, every price is increased, like the price of the raw material and the packaging costing and the transportation and everything. But we want to revise the price, but I want to know from you that what are the criteria to follow, because we cannot even compromise with the packaging and all. So in what way the price can be revised?
Okay. See, you are talking about the partners, vendors that you work with.
I am the MD of Ma Masla. Basically, I am that means used to the different spices, sir. I'm talking about my product, because nowadays, while we are getting the raw material and transportation, actually every price is increasing, and for everything we are giving double cost for us. So packaging and all other things, actually how to make the revision of the price, because my intention to make less of the costing so that the consumer can afford during this lockdown period, sir. But I don't find what are the criteria to follow.
Yeah, see, the higher costs will not be easy to pass on to consumer. Consumer will not pay 10 rupees product for 12 rupees or 15 rupees at this time.
Yeah.
So yeah, see, the thing is that it's a difficult thing for everybody. Transportation is higher because of, but that could be temporary. As
Yeah.
far as the material cost and the conversion cost of your vendors, I guess one has to say that, you know, everybody is going through tough times.
Yes, sir.
And therefore, the profit margin, see, the cost is one thing of the material that they use and the conversion cost they apply. But the profit margin that they apply, they also have to take a cut because everybody has to compromise at this point in time. So if their cost was whatever X earlier, they'll also have to negotiate with their vendors to see that at what price they can get, because nobody is getting spared here.
Yes, sir.
Everybody has to kind of chip in until, you know, the cycle starts moving again, and some of these costs are not seasonal or cyclical. I mean, these are just because of this particular event that it has come. So they should come back to their earlier normal level as the manufacturing starts and the shortages go away.
Yes.
So it should come back. But in the interim, I mean, we all have to take a cut in our profit margin because that's the way it's going to look like.
Okay, sir. Thank you, sir. Thank you. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
So there's one question. I'm not very sure whether this is relevant to our topic today or not. This is asked by Jennifer Thomas. What would be the general insurance product requirement in the health, fire and motor insurance?
I have absolutely no.
Yeah, even I was thinking that this is not a relevant question. And I'm seeing there are many people asking about training and development and the future. So I also didn't think of, you know, taking it towards you because that's not the current subject of discussion today. Subhabrata has been asking some 4 or 5 questions, so let me pick one from his. He is, or Subhabrata, you want to unmute and ask one question maybe, because you asked some 4 or 5 questions. So one question. Subhabrata, you can unmute and ask one question.
You can ask on my behalf because I've already run through too many questions. I have to scroll down and check the questions.
Okay, but then you should not blame me that I did not ask the other one.
Oh, no, never.
Okay, so Subhabrata says, consumers more likely to get a feel and touch factor on products, but online service will not give them that opportunity. So your views on this?
I agree. It does not. So, but then people still buy shirts online, white shirt and blue shirt and black trousers and gray trousers. So there are certain level of understanding, standardization that people would have developed to say that, okay, it is okay to buy, because otherwise who would buy something like these online? But if you see over a period of time, the kind of products that we have started buying online, it shows that, I mean, and we never bought those products online before. So they were all touch and feel led. I think we will see that we have progressed ourselves from 100% touch and feel to much lower levels. And going forward, it could expand.
Right, sir. There's one more question, and after this, I'm going to take just another one, and then I think we should be winding up.
Yeah.
So this is, what will be the strategy of survival for push brand products with not much marketing activities? Will BTL add value in getting nearer to customer?
So here, push, I guess, sales promotions and retailer schemes and offtake schemes and those sort of things. Yeah, I mean, it's been there. Now, what will change post this event? It's just that everybody is likely to get more desperate about getting back to the pre-February, January level sales. And the desperation would be even higher. So there will be more schemes, or I don't know how it will play out. Because the volumes have suffered, sales have come down, and everybody is thinking about how we will get back to our old levels and what it will take to do that. So everything in the rule book will be applied. So at least the sales must come back, the factories must run, the people must be occupied fully. So everything will be done. But it will be more competitive, more pressure on, and we're feeling the premium brand, the expensive brands will have a tougher task for them.
Right, sir. So I'll ask the last question and then maybe we can wind up for the day. And I see there are a lot of people asking training related questions. So I'm not asking that because our speaker is not an expertise on learning and development. He's more into consumer durables and marketing. All right. So final question. And I see it says, will JioMart change the current business models?
They're certainly claiming to do so. I mean, I know for a fact that Amazon also been trying out these kind of model on some scale, Amazon stores and things, converting local kiranas into Amazon stock point and delivery point, franchisee kind of an arrangement. But Jio is obviously planning to do it on a much larger scale. And it has every reason to, it has a lot of reasons to do well, is the way I can see it. Because in our country, there are many shops, and those shops have a disadvantage that they are not organized, but they have a huge advantage that they are close to customer homes. And that kind of reach is hard to match by the distribution centers, as many distribution centers that the e-commerce or the big retailers can have in a big city. They cannot match the number of kiranas that are there. A large number of, in a city like Calcutta, if 4,000-5,000 kiranas join up, or maybe more, that's a huge number. I mean, Big Basket won't have 5, 7, 10. How many would they have? Amazon, how many would they have? The economics will not work. So it's a very interesting times that we are getting into. There is no one model that's going to be at play. JioMart is an interesting one to watch how it plays out. Using WhatsApp and JioPay and all that, these are very interesting times.
Well, thank you very much, sir. This was a lovely session. So I have to, seek a little bit of pardon from all the participants because I was trying to accommodate the majority of the questions, and I gave more priority to people who were asking single questions because there were repeat questions also from others. But anyway, I would pass on the mic to Rachna for the vote of thanks for today.
Thank you.
Good evening, sir, and good evening, all of you all once again. I think I am just spellbound by the amount of insight that I've got. And I've been just sitting quiet in one end and just listening to so much of information. And so much of learnings that I've got from this session is amazing. And I'm sure all my people here would have also got the same. So Mr. Datta, on behalf of all the people attending over here, on behalf of all the entire L&T Global Chapter Kolkata, I am thanking you to be here and for an amazing, amazing session this evening.
Thank you so much for your kind words, and thank you for having me here.
Thank you very much, sir. And I will just, for the participants, I'm pasting the YouTube link once again in the chat box. That has all the recordings of our previous speakers. Would request everyone to visit our L&T Global Kolkata chapter's YouTube page, and you would be able to see all the recordings. And please subscribe and please share. So thank you very much.
Thank you.
And
thank you. Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Okay, thank you. Thank you.
Madhusudana, you want to say something?
No, it's okay. Perfectly all right.
All right.
Yeah,
so, bidding a
thank you,
farewell.
Mr. Datta.
Thank you.
Thanks for a wonderful session.
Thank you.
Thank you for the wonderful session.
So, bidding farewell until next time. So, please stay tuned to our website and YouTube page and also the WhatsApp group. we're going to keep giving you updates of our next programs. Thank you very much.
Thanks a lot.
Okay, bye bye.